Welcome back to Elden Ring. In this video we're going to be taking a look at another 6 weapons you must have. And just quickly before we do get into these weapons, if you're not currently subbed to the channel, make sure you do sub, turn notifications on. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, all support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to support me further as a creator, then check out the links in the description. Also, let me know in the comments what your favourite weapon is in the whole of Elden Ring, and let's get into it. So, weapon number 1 for this video is the Bloody Helice. This is a little bit of a weird one. It's a heavy thrusting sword. It scales with arcane at a C tier, dexterity C tier, and strength is E tier. It's got a blood loss build-up of 95. The attribute requirements 16 strength, 19 dexterity, and 17 arcane. So it will be very good in a bleed build. However, we typically look at the skills on a weapon, and with this one, we are not going to bother with the skill itself. You'll also notice that I don't have this in my main hand, I've got this weapon set to my offhand. The reason is, you want to get your hands on a sword of any kind that can run the war cry Ash of War. And that is because if we come out of the menu and we take out our Bloody Helice, if we switch over and we two-hand the weapon, if I use my right trigger, it does like a straight heavy thrust. Whereas if I switch over and I use the war cry, then switch back and hold down the right trigger, you'll see it does this weird like combo attack, and that is going to deal a lot of damage to enemies, especially when you're spec'd into arcane, you're working on a bleed build. It is incredible to use this. What I'm going to do is use the war cry, then I'm going to switch back over. So what I would recommend with this one is make sure you are on the right hand side of an enemy and then use the right trigger. And there you go, 4490. We've taken down that giant in one attack. Using it against main bosses is going to be fantastic if you are spec'd into a build for it and you absolutely nail the positioning. It can be tough to get it right. I would recommend standing on the right hand side of an enemy and you kind of have to look at it's like a diagonal sort of angle. It is really hard to explain, but the more you use it, the more you'll get used to it. Weapon number 2 is the Dragon King's Cragblade, and this I like just for the skill and just what it does. It looks cool, it feels really good to pull off in the game. This is going to scale with strength at a D tier and dexterity with a B. The requirements are quite high for the dex, it's 37 and then 18 strength. You'll see that it does scale with lightning, so if you have like a lightning build that you can put together, it's going to really benefit this weapon. The skill is called Thundercloud Form, it's got a 35 FP cost, so a standard attack. It's not too bad, a 2 hit to take one of these enemies out. 1300 damage after 2 hits, it's not too bad. However, what we're looking to do with this is the left trigger skill. Look at how incredible that is. I know I didn't hit the enemy, but just even looking up here, you turn into some sort of like lightning god. It's absolutely incredible. But not only that, you can charge it and go a further distance. So against this enemy, I'll just tap the left trigger and you come straight back down. And look at that damage, 2462. Whereas this guy, if I stand a little bit further back and I hold the left trigger, you can kind of time it because you can go really far. I say really far, like you can't just skip to other areas in the game. But you can go quite far with it. And then when you let go, or when it does reach the end of its range, is when it's going to slam down. And the damage is really good. As I said, it scales with lightning through dexterity. And it's just a really, really nice weapon to use. Even if you are just using it for like bragging rights and, oh, look at me, I can basically go invisible and slam down on enemies and pretty much ruin them with lightning. I absolutely love this weapon ever since I got it. It's really tough to get your hands on, but it's so worth it. Weapon number 3 is a curved greatsword and is Bloodhound's Fang. This weapon is so handy when you are getting battered in a fight. Similar to the Dragon King's Cragblade, it scales on strength and dexterity, C for strength, B for dex. It's got a blood loss build up of 55, the requirements are really low, 18 strength and 17 dex, and it's got quite a high physical attack power at 325, so the right armament attack power is 611, and the skill is Bloodhound's Finesse. It's got an 8 FP cost, so it's really low, but you can follow it up with a right trigger, and that is going to cost an extra 12. It's quite a heavy one, but this is like an assassin sort of greatsword, so if you pair this with the black knife, you've got the black knife armor, all that sort of stuff, it's going to feel really, really good. But the skill, as a standalone just pressing the left trigger, is going to go in for a slash, and then you're going to like dash backwards. But then if you do the skill and you follow it up with a heavy, you kind of do this invisible like forward lunge, and then you slash again. So if I come down here and I use Bloodhound's Finesse, I go in for that attack, and then you pull yourself back a little bit, so you're out of the range the enemy's going to have to hit you. On this guy, if I just go in for one, come back a little bit, and try not to get ruined by him. So you'll see there the damage is quite good. If I go in for an attack, providing he don't do that weird thing, there we go, and then come in, and look at that. It's so cool to run this, especially if you're interested in a... Well, thank you for interrupting me, prick. As I was saying, you can really feel like one of the Black Knife assassins in this game, and it's so much fun to run this build. You've got that extra survivability from the backwards dash away from the attack when you do use the skill, and that is weapon number 3. So weapon number 4 is a weapon that nobody would have guessed would be on any top weapon list for Elden Ring. There is only one reason I put it on here, because as it is default is not actually that great. It's the Bandit's Curved Sword, and I put seppuku on it, so it's got the blood affinity as well. So originally it won't scale with arcane, it won't have a blood loss build up. It does scale with strength and dex, C dex, D strength. And the attribute requirements are 11 strength and 13 dex. The reason this is on the list is because you can dual wield these without needing to go through to New Game Plus, and you can get them really, really early in the game. So what I've done is used my Lost Ashes of War, and I've duplicated seppuku. I put the blood affinity on both of them, they're exactly the same, I've leveled them up the same and everything. And you'll see their blood loss build up has a rating of 110, because these will level up with your standard smithing stones. That's why they can go to plus 24, they're not any of the special weapons, so they don't require somber smithing stones. So if you do left bumper attacks, they do a double slash. If you jump up, you can do heavy attacks, you can do your standard light attacks, but then if you jump up and left bumper, it does a double slash, and it deals quite a lot of damage. When you have seppuku on it, and you proc seppuku and everything, they are really, really powerful for any bleed build in the game. So, the penultimate weapon for this video is Eleonora's Poleblade, or Eleonora's Poleblade, and this weapon is, I'm going to say, similar to the Rivers of Blood. It is so much fun to use this weapon. It's a twin blade, it scales on strength, dex, and arcane. E for strength, C for dex, D for arcane. The attribute requirements are 12 strength, 21 dex, and 19 arcane. So there's a little bit of a mixture there. It's got a blood loss build up of 79, and you are going to focus on the skill with this one, Bloodblade Dance. It's got an 11 FP cost, and the follow-up is going to cost 6. You'll see that it also scales with fire under the attack power. So, taking a look at Eleonora's Poleblade, if you do your standard left trigger, it does like this multi-hit slash, and it's all based on blood loss. However, if you do the skill and then you follow it up with another skill button press, so left trigger and then left trigger again, it carries on, but it does that Bloodhound's Fang like backwards dash. So I can finish that guy off, and then if I stand closer to this one, look at that. It might not be the greatest damage in the world. I don't have everything on for my bleed build, and these enemies are so annoying. So, weapon number 6, the final weapon for this video, is Marika's Hammer. This is the other weapon you can get from the final boss of the game. The first one being the Sacred Relic Sword, then this one, Marika's Hammer. It scales on strength, dex, and faith. C for strength and faith, and a D for dex. The requirements are 20 strength, 19 of faith, and 12 dexterity. And you'll see under the attack power, it's got physical and holy damage as well. And yeah, Goldbreaker, the skill, an FP cost of 31. Let's go and take a look, because I would like to replace this, or rename this. I would like to call this Thor's Hammer instead of Marika's. I don't really care about Marika. And if we have a look at this skill, if you press your left trigger, yeah, you can do a massive holy damage based slam onto the ground. It deals heavy amounts of damage and it's just so good. But another thing that's really good about this is when you pull off the skill, as soon as you move up into the air, you cannot be interrupted. You are guaranteed to pull that move off. So if we come down to these enemies, this guy, the red one's probably going to start. So as soon as I go up, you can see I take all the damage, but I'm not interrupted. And I can still pull off the skill and then die because these enemies are assholes. And if we do a standard attack, it's not going to be that much. It's like 600 odd. 616 for the first one. You can build it up as you do more successive attacks. But the good thing is, this isn't going to like make you a heavy load. You're not going to fat roll with this because it's got such a low weight. It's only a little hammer. It's got a weight of 6. And that is actually one of my favourite things about it. Besides obviously the slam with the holy damage, is the fact that it's a hammer and it weighs so little. But that was a look at another 6 weapons you must have in Elden Ring. And that is going to do it for this one. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments about these weapons. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.